everybody, Brad Clark here, and welcome to another Work Your Career Wednesday. I can't believe it, but here we are again, and we've got a great show for you. If you can't see who we got in back of there, I'll let you know in a minute. But first, we got to talk about White Husky Films. If you have a vision, if you have a commercial, you want to promote your business, you got a conference, you want to capture all the things that happen there, get in touch right now with Steven. Just stop what you're doing. You got the idea, you got the number, it's right here or it's right here. I can't, either one. And call them or go to the website www.whitehuskyfilms.com and talk to them. I guarantee you, dream, create, record, you will be glad you did. All right, let's get on with the show. Corey Jackson, amazing guy, former NFL star turned entrepreneur, CEO, but that's how he got there. Now that's the sauce. So stick around, stay tuned, sit back, relax, and enjoy Work Your Career Wednesday with Corey Jackson.
Let's do it.
All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Work Your Career Wednesday. I don't know if you're able to see it, but this guy over here, everybody, my goodness, I can't believe it. Corey Jackson. This guy, Corey, I had your football cards.
Crazy.
I'm so excited, man. You know, Corey, obviously former NFL player, defensive lineman in the NFL for the Cleveland Browns and the Denver Broncos. But I was actually, I didn't know you played basketball. I was like, you play basketball too? Like, okay, that's awesome. It's awesome. But just welcome and thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Man, Bradley, thank you for having me. Pleasure.
So going through your bio and all the success that you've had, I just wanted to see if you give us a sort of a brief rundown of sort of where you've been and where you are now.
Yeah. Appreciate it. So like you said, I started off as a basketball player. My whole life I wanted to be a basketball player. I wanted to be an NBA player. Went through high school, had a solid high school career, went to a small high school, didn't get any scholarship offers. So I found myself in this weird position, man, where it was just, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. For the first time in my life, I didn't have basketball, I didn't have sports. And I was going through this whole identity crisis of, no one wants me. I didn't get a scholarship offer. And so what that did for me, though, was it really opened my eyes up to the real world, like how the world works, right? You have, different types of people in this world. You have people who, for whatever reason, they work really hard, things open up for them, they get it, right? And then you have the other side of it where you work really hard and for whatever reason, it's not recognized, you don't get credit, people, don't acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. So I found myself on that side of things. And then I had to figure out how to get attention. How do I get people to notice me? What do I have to do to let people know that I exist, right? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people go through that. And it's a tough thing to do. But once you figure out that you have to pick yourself first, then you can start to move with the confidence you need to go create and build the life that you want. And so I went from working at Walmart because my guidance counselor told me, hey, college wasn't going to be the deal for you. You need to go find something else to do. You didn't get any scholarship offers. Your grades were not that great anyway. And, honestly, I didn't like school that much. So I was like, okay, but after working a year at Walmart, making $7 an hour, you realize that, the opportunities are few and far in between. And in order to do something extraordinary with your life, you have to do something extremely bold and take a different stance in life. And so I quit that job, hopped on a bus, 2-day bus trip. Funny thing about the story was I didn't enroll in the school, didn't apply for the school. No one at the school knew who I was. And I just knew that I had some ability. I knew I had some talent. And I didn't want to hear no anymore. I got tired of hearing no. And so I hopped on that bus, terrified out of my mind. 2 days across the country to Texas. Ended up, I'm in South Carolina. So I went from South Carolina to Texas, ended up in a little town called Ranger School. And honestly, my only plan was just to get there. I didn't have any other strategy other than I need to get on campus. Called the coach from bus station, said, hey, I want to play for you guys. And he told me, hey, have your coach send me some film. I said, well, hey, I'm at the bus station, man. I need a ride. And the guy kind of went silent on me a little bit. And then all of a sudden he said, how big are you? At the time I was about 6'5". I said, coach, I'm 6'8". Guy said, I'm on the way. And so he came and picked me up, man. And I would never forget this. It was a hot August day, man. And I'm sitting at the bus station with my little bag, and he comes and he picks me up, and he literally tells me, he says, man, listen, I have 25 basketball players. I don't have any scholarship money. I don't know what to do with you. I can't, you're not enrolled in this school, haven't applied for school. I don't know if you can get in this school. And he said, I'm just going to take you to the admissions office and see if they can help you. Good luck. He drops me off there. And Bradley, man, I go in there, and they were really great, man. They were, helping me and trying to figure out how to get me in school. And they figured it out. And they said, man, we can get you in. And, I knew the other question was going to come. How are you going to pay for this? I have no money, right?
Right, exactly.
And I just told him, I said, I think I got an idea of how I can get everything paid for. I just wanted to make sure I can get in. And I left that admissions office, and about 100 yards or so away was the gymnasium. I could see it. I walked straight to it, beeline right to that gymnasium, walked in there. These guys are in there playing. And it's a funny thing, because a lot of those guys are my good friends to this day. I went to a 1A high school, and all these guys went to, 5A high schools, and they're in there playing, and I'm just sitting there watching. And a few games go by, and they're like playing pickup. So the coach says, hey, man, they're just playing pickup, if you want to play next game, feel free to hop in and play. And so I said, cool. I go in. Bradley, it was crazy. It's like a movie. So I get in, and I realize no one's going to pass me the ball, because I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, these guys don't know who I am. They're not going to pass me the ball. So I go in, and I'm on the court for like 30 seconds. And the guy on my team takes this horrible, awkward looking 3-point shot. So I'm like, man, I'm going to just try to get the rebound. Yeah. And so my only job was to just get noticed, like let the coach know, like, hey, man, this guy's, he's good for something, right?
Right.
And so I'm running to the paint to get position to get the rebound. And it's like 3 other guys fighting for the rebound too. So now we all fighting for position. The ball's flying through the air, hits the back of the rim, flies up. I jump. These other guys jump. I catch the ball, but I'm directly in front of the rim. So I slam the ball back into the rim. And now I'm hanging on the rim, and these guys are falling. So now, as I come down, the coach sprints onto the floor. He says, everybody stop, nobody move. And he has like this T-shirts and apparel in his hand. He says, hey, man, come here. He said, I don't know why you came here, but I'm glad you did. He was like, you don't
look at that.
And then he said, I want you on this team. And that was my introduction to how to take control of your life and your narrative. We have situations, Bradley, in life where we are waiting for somebody to confirm for us what we should already be doing, right? And so that year that I was out of school, I was sitting there waiting for the phone to ring, somebody to call, somebody to say, hey, I saw film, I saw you play, I want to offer you a scholarship. But it doesn't work that way for most people. For most of us, we have to get out there and put ourselves in front of the opportunity so the opportunity can realize that we exist, because it's a big world out here. Everybody don't know that Bradley exists and Corey exists, and so we have to go out here and oppose our will. And I learned that I was 19 years old, and I'll never forget it.
That is a powerful story. That's powerful, man.
Changed my life.
You know, it's really interesting how that sort of the mentality of sort of sitting and waiting is and I don't, so hold on. I'm blown away by that story. I'm a little speechless, which is rare for me, but it really, particularly where we are right now with the workforce as it is, with layoffs happening, techs getting kicked in the teeth, there's so many different things. And we live in this social media age where, just like you, in real life, vying for attention, there's a lot of that going on, some good, some bad in this world, but there's still not that sort of drive to, well, I mean, haven't you seen my resume? I mean, haven't you seen what I can do? Let me ask you this, because you have a recruiting company.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get into that, but you and your staff, and you guys talk to candidates every day. I'm curious, what kind of trends are you seeing in the same vein of what we're talking about? What are you seeing?
Yeah,
that candidates are doing or not doing?
Yeah, well, what I'm seeing kind of just industry to industry, there's a lot of changes that are happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like in a lot of ways, my life is an example of how we can take things and morph them into new opportunities, if you will, right? And so, for instance, when things start slowing down in certain industries, or they're not hiring as much, or then, the process is just getting convoluted, or whatever the case may be, we look at really good candidates, and what we say is, let's look at all of the skills, experience, everything that they bring to the table, all of the qualities, everything that makes them unique, right? Mm-hmm. And then we say, does these things map to somewhere else? Does it mm-hmm. take you to a different industry? And this is why I say this, I feel like my life kind of is the example of this, because as we continue this conversation, you'll see how I got to football, right?
Right.
I had the same ability, same skill set, same mindset, but it wasn't working for the avenue that I wanted to go down, right? So as things transfer into these different opportunity buckets, we have to really think about, what do we have? And then how do we map them to something new where it's still valuable, and in a lot of cases more valuable. But a lot of times we get stuck kind of hitting our head against the wall, because if an industry is dying or slowing down, it's not going to like regenerate itself, right? Like that means something new is happening, right? And so how do we make sure that we package what we have and present it into this new space in a way that shows the value that it brings, right? And these are the things that we talk to candidates about. It's like, hey, we understand, even from a recruiting standpoint, right? It's a lot of candidates, because we hire recruiters all the time, right? And we're always looking for good recruiters, but the industry has changed for recruiters. Mm-hmm. And so the opportunities look different, right? And so how do you take all of these skill sets that you've acquired over time as a recruiter and map them into a new opportunity and create that value somewhere else? And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, because we get taught to go to school, focus on this thing. This is my focus, get a degree in that thing. And then once you have these credentials, all of these opportunities are going to open up for you, right? And so it's just that same example of how I felt like if I played my best at basketball and I went out and did all these rebounds and scored points and did all these things, then someone was going to offer me a scholarship, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't work like that all the time. And in today's world, it's great that it doesn't work like that all the time, because there's even more and bigger and more vast opportunities out here if we're creative enough to look at them from different lenses.
That is a great segue to go into your story about how you came to football.
Yeah. It's funny. So when I was in high school, our football coaches was going crazy because I didn't play football. And I had a football coach come to me, and he says, listen, man, you're 6'5", you're a great athlete, but 6'5" basketball players come a dime a dozen. You know, they just do. You need to come out and play football, right? And so I ignored the guy because I'm like, man, he just want me to play football. You know, I mean,
Sure.
that's his job to get the athletes to play football.
Yeah.
And so fast forward, I go to this junior college, become one of the top junior college basketball players in Texas, earn a scholarship at the University of Nevada, become one of the top rebounders in the nation, average a double-double, get out to my senior year, put my name in the hat, right? I want to go to the NBA. Yeah. Don't get picked, right? Don't get picked. Go to the summer league, play in the summer pro league. Don't get picked. So all the scouts kept saying the same thing. We like you, you know, you have great ability. You know, I was 6'7" at the time, so I grew a couple inches, so I'm 6'7", but I'm a power forward. So they were like, we don't really have a position for you. You know, we have shooting guards that are 6'7", you know, like, yeah. And so they didn't really have a position for me. Got offered to go play in Europe. Bradley, I'll tell you something about me. And this could be good, this could be bad. You know, it's just all about how you look at it. But I only want to play at the highest levels. Like, I can't get excited about playing on any other level unless it's the highest level, right? And so when I got offered to go to Europe to play and the money was great, I just couldn't get excited about it. I was just like, man, you know, I want to be in the highest league possible. I want to play in the top league in the world, right? Yeah. And so I ended up going back to the University of Nevada because I still had some classes to finish up. Mm-hmm. Got on campus, and lo and behold, like I said, I had that conversation with the football coaches back in high school. Get on campus, what happens? A football coach comes up to me, say, "Hey, man, listen, sorry you didn't make it into the NBA, but I think you've been playing the wrong sport the whole time."
Like, of course you would say that.
Right. And so it was so funny because, you know, I never, you know, thought about myself playing football. And so he said, listen, I think you should give it a shot, you know. And it was an easy decision because I never been in school and not have to play a sport, right? I'm like, man, I don't want to be a regular student. I mean, nothing wrong with being a regular student, but I just didn't, you know, I wasn't excited about just going to class every day and then not having anything to do outside of that. Right. And so I go out, man. And honestly, they tried me in a few different positions. I didn't really do a whole lot. I only played 12 plays. So ended up playing like 12 plays, got my first tackle the last game of the season against Boise State. Wow. So at the end of that experiment, you know, I came to the conclusion that, you know, I guess I'm gonna go back to basketball, right? Mm-hmm. So I've started like kind of training and kind of trying to get my mind around like, okay, maybe I need to do this Europe thing. You know, I'm at my apartment one day, football coach calls me, said, "Hey man, I got 30 NFL scouts up here asking about you. And they want you to come work out at this pro day."
Wow, so powerful. So you're already going back to Europe and fixing to settle.
Yep.
Because, you know.
Yeah, I need to make some money. I really, I don't want to go do a real job at this point, right? And so I'm like, yeah, you know, I go play basketball and go to Europe and you know, figure
Not a bad gig.
Yeah,
not a bad gig.
Yeah. And so that phone call
and you happened. Get this call, man.
I'm thinking like this guy's exaggerating. I'm like, maybe some scouts up there, but 30.
It's like, look, I'm on the team already. Just, you know.
So I go up there, man. We walk into the weight room and all of these scouts are in there. They know my name. They know who I am. And the coach mentioned to me, it's like, yeah, man, you know, they were watching some film on you. And I'm like, man, I only played 12 plays. And
yeah, like what film could you be watching?
They were watching basketball film. And so I always tell people, especially young people.
I'm sorry, Corey. I mean, wait. So the football scouts were watching basketball film.
Yep. They were watching basketball film. And so
powerful.
It was crazy.
So powerful.
Crazy.
Wow. Okay.
And so I always tell young people, I'm like, man, anything that you do, anything that you put yourself into, you have to do it to the best of your ability. Mm-hmm. Because you don't know where that's going to lead to that next opportunity, right? So I was just like, just half behind in it on the basketball court and having a bad attitude. And when they went and watched that film, they would have been like, this guy's a jerk, right? But they saw my leadership, they saw how hard I would work, they saw how tough I was, and then they saw my athleticism, right? And so they saw all of that, wanted me to work out. I go through this whole workout, man. Never did this workout before in my life, right? So I go through the whole workout, right? And at the end of the workout, the scouts just walk off. They don't say bye. They don't say great job. They don't say anything. I'm like, the heck?
Okay.
Right? So I'm walking off the field really confused. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, I must have really blew it, right?
Yeah.
And my phone rings. Answer my phone, unfamiliar voice on the other end of my phone. Hey, Corey, how you doing? I'm an NFL agent. I heard you killed it in your workout today. I was like, man, I'm literally just walking off the field. He's like, yeah, I know. I want to represent you, right? And so that whole day, man, my phone was going crazy, you know, and then all of a sudden, you know, I said, okay, this football thing may be real. Signed with an agent. The guy says, hey, man, you're going to get drafted probably 5th, 6th round, you know, watch the draft and all that stuff, right? So I'm like, this is insane, right?
Yeah.
Watch the draft, man, going through the whole draft. Didn't get my name called. So I'm like, man, this is crazy.
Well, it's probably like, you know, here we go again.
Yeah, like this,
you know, that kind of thing.
Feeling, right? I've felt this feeling before. But the crazy thing about it was before I can even really like collect my thoughts, my phone was going off. So I answer my phone, and this guy comes on the phone. It's like, hey, Corey, I want to congratulate you on becoming a Cleveland Brown. We want to sign you as a rookie free agent. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I got your agent on the end of the phone now. And it was just like that. Just like that.
That's good agent. Yeah. That is a good agent, you know?
I mean, my whole life changed in the matter of, you know, just that. I mean, I did all of this work, and this is the point I was making. I did all of this work. And a lot of times we think all of this work is for nothing if it doesn't amount to where we think it should go. See, I thought I was supposed to go to the NBA. And so if I would have discounted all of the work it took me to get there, then I would have never been able to take that and transfer it over to something different and get an opportunity that makes more sense for me, right?
Right.
And so it was so hard for me to get workouts for basketball. And football, they were actually coming to me saying, hey, come do this, right?
Right.
And so Bradley, I did a live this morning, and I was talking about, you know how like a satellite, like a DirecTV satellite. So I use this example, right? And I don't know if you ever had DirecTV or some type of dish network or something like that. But anyway, the dish, right, receives the signal from the satellite. The satellite, the dish then sends it to the receiver, right? And then the receiver shows up on the TV, right? So this is how it happens for us too, as humans, right? So imagine I'm the dish out here trying to get the signal, right? And so with a satellite, the closer you are to the direction of that satellite, the stronger that signal is, right? So
say that again.
So the closer you are to the direction of that satellite, the stronger the signal, right? And so if you're not all the way aligned with that satellite, the signal will be going in and out. It'll fail, it'll drop. And so in our lives, we see success and then all of a sudden things fall off. We see success and then things fall off. So that means that we're kind of in a direction, but we're not quite all the way aligned with where we really supposed to be. Because when that signal really hits and it aligns, there's no interference there, right? So if your signal's not strong, it gets cloudy, you lose your picture, right? Or if it rains, you lose your picture because you're not quite all the way aligned where you're supposed to be. And so as we go through life, we have that same experience, right? That we start losing the signal because something's blocking our line of sight, something's in the way. And so we have to adjust our aim to things that are going to help us align with where we're supposed to be. And this is very relevant to a lot of people in today's world right now because of what's happening and just the opportunities. You're almost there because you can see some type of success, but if it keeps dropping its signal or it keeps failing, then you know you have to adjust your aim, right? And so with a dish, if that dish loses its signal, what flashes across your TV? Searching for signal, right?
Searching for signal.
And so it's our job to search for the signal. So if we know that we're not getting the connection we're looking for, those opportunities not happening, or I had a little bit of success, but it fell off, or this is, I got to keep searching for the signal. And the closer I get, the stronger that signal gets. And eventually, if that signal gets strong enough, it won't fail. It won't drop, right? Mm-hmm. And then things become easier. So in my example, football became so much easier to get to the NFL, even though I only played one semester, right? But I got an alignment.
But it was aligned.
And that signal was so strong to the point where I was able to have a beeline of success directly to the NFL in a matter of months, when I played basketball for a matter of years, right? And so these are the things that we have to stay conscious of as human beings. When we're struggling, we have to ask ourselves, can I adjust my aim just a little bit? It don't have to be drastic. It's like, okay, I'm doing this. What if I kind of pointed a little bit this way, right? And if you see it gets things pick up a little bit, you say, okay, I might be kind of on the right track, but you still can continue to adjust your search until you really hit it. It don't have to be a drastic thing, but it has to be constant until you hit that direct line of sight. And now that's why people say, when you hear people say, man, it's hard for people to explain when they really hit a high level of success, because they just get in alignment and it's just happening. They were like, man, it's just happening.
It's just happened.
Yeah. And it's hard for them to explain how, because people always ask, right? You sit down at these fireside chats.
Yeah.
Man, how did you get to the NFL? Right? How did, it's very difficult.
Like, listen to that journey.
Right?
It's
like, okay, I did all these things, but if you did all of those things, it may not work for you. Right? So you have to figure out how to adjust your thing to make it happen. And so it's hard to explain.
How often have you seen people be so rigid about their own plan that they just absolutely do not, I mean, as far as they're concerned, they're on the right signal. They just don't understand why they keep failing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
if they just adjust it a little bit, like you're saying, or be open to it, to be greater than the plan. Because, hey, sometimes our plans don't work out.
For sure. For sure. I think you have to be open and you have to be fluid. You have to be willing to, like, for instance, you have to use your best judgment on how to do things, right? So for instance, I'll tell you this. So when I got on the bus to go enroll in school, I didn't go to Duke University. I was like, listen, I got to find a school that I can get into that give me a chance to build something new, right? And so you have to really think about what's the best point of entry, because we want to start up here, right? Like my preference was to go straight to Division I. I didn't want to go to a 2-year school,
right?
But that was the best point of entrance, right? And so even like with candidates, we talk to candidates all the time. They're like, man, I really want this in a role, and I want that in a role. I'm like, okay, well, do you like the company? Right? If you like the company, you like the opportunity, you like the money, let's get in the door. And then once you're in the door, now let's see if you can, do good work, build up good relationships, and then have some influence, right? And so we have to think about things in a way that's that we want it all right now.
I know.
Right? We want it all right now. And it doesn't happen like that for most of us.
I mean, I wish it happened that way for me. That would have been great.
Right.
I mean, if it would have happened that way for me, that'd have been wonderful. I don't need the journey. I'll figure out everything in therapy. I don't know.
And I would have had less grays in my beard too.
Bro, in your beard, I mean, I'm a year away from playing Santa Claus.
But you're right. You're right. It doesn't happen that way. We wish it would happen that way. But for those of us that understands, opportunity is not something that someone presents to you and say, here's how much it pays Here's what type of benefits you get. An
Right.
opportunity could be getting called into your boss's office and he's saying, hey, we got to let you go.
Yeah.
Be the
Could
biggest
be the
opportunity of your life.
best opportunity. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's really interesting to me when we're talking to candidates and they're kind of giving us their criteria and their list. And if I've noticed over the years, you know, the list is the same. You know what I mean? It's well, the benefits here, and it's gotten away from being able to sort of hone in on that signal for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And as good as they are at something, they are just not happy with. You know what I mean? It's just like, man, how much does it pay, bro? You know, when do I have to be there? You know, the question I can't stand from candidates that we all get all the time is, how much does it pay?
Yeah.
You know, not about the opportunity, not about and it's easy to get that way. It's easy to, you know, when you feel like you're pounding your head against a wall and all of a sudden you just have hobbies to get through life,
Yeah.
you know, as opposed to when, like you were saying, you know, I know, my gosh, our story is very similar in a lot of ways, because once you dial in on that wavelength and you start to achieve high level of success, it's like, why would you do anything differently?
Yeah.
And then that opens up a lot of freedom, but that's not where most people are. I'm curious, aside from your story, but when you see that candidate and you know they're good and you know you're going to represent them, you know, it's like the agent calling you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do you explain, you know, this opportunity may not pay as much as you want, but here are the benefits. You know, how do you get in to the candidates, just the person, so where, you know, they cease to be a candidate and they become, you know, Dave or, you know, Susan or whoever. You know what I mean?
It's really, really interesting because, you know, having very candid conversations, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all are humans. We all have needs. We all have wants. We all have desires. And so I'm a very transparent person.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talking to people, you know, you want to get the real person. Like, hey, listen, you know, what do you want? You know, we understand the money part, but what do you want out of a company? What do you want? How do you want your family to see you? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something that, because a lot of times the connection is, I want this title. Why do you want that title?
Why?
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's important. And so for me to be able to understand and then also empathize with the candidate, I need to know, well, what is it about this particular title? Is your wife going to respect you more if you had that title?
Right. Are you going to respect you more?
Right. And so it's usually something driving them to want to have a certain level of maybe even status within their household or within their community. You know, and this is not something that I brushed aside because I understand it, right? We all have, you know, and I can speak from a male perspective. I can't speak from a woman's perspective, but I can speak for a male perspective. We all have a strong desire to exist in this world and be viewed as a great provider, a great protector, you know, having a certain level of social status about who I am as a human being, it matters to us. Mm-hmm. And so I don't brush that aside when someone says, hey man, you know, I need to be a VP role or I need to have the, you know, because I understand why a lot of times, right?
Sure.
And then my job is to say, hey, well, listen, if that's what you want, right? Let's figure out how to get you there, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we have this conversation, let's be very candid with the company. And I say, hey, listen, I want this role. I want to work in this role, but my desire is to move up here, right? Is that possible? Do you guys have these type of internal opportunities? Do you? Mm-hmm. And then now they're asking the right questions. And what that does is for the employer, it gets them excited because now you have someone that's committed to growth, someone that's committed to wanting to elevate and excel And so it works out for everyone within that conversation. And so now, just because I can't get you the role you want today, but I can put you on the path and then you do the work, right? Now we
Right.
put you on the path to get to where you want to be. But a lot of times, if you don't take the time to understand why Bradley feels that way,
Mm-hmm.
then you're gonna say, well, this is the role. It is what it is. Do you want it? You know, like
It's a disaster, and that it kind of leads me to my next question. I see that, like we were talking about how recruiting in and of itself has changed,
Mhm.
right? And there's certain things about it that have changed. One thing that I've seen that I'm not a big fan of is this sort of automatic, same questions,
Mhm. Automation.
not really, you know what I mean? Not really taking the time to learn why
Mhm.
they want the title. It's just do you check these boxes and we'll call you, and I've seen that more often in the past few years than I used to see it,
Yeah, and I
10
think
years ago.
this huge explosion of outsourcing and
Mm-hmm.
automating the sourcing side of things, and that's
Right.
why you were hearing some of our content where I said we don't source, we recruit, and
Right.
and we really what I'm doing is specifying the fact that we get involved with the human, right? That's the
Right.
separation. Any,
Right.
we can hop on these different, tools, and we can do all these searches and we can do all these
But
things.
it's the human.
That's
Yeah.
that's a whole different animal than
Mm-hmm.
being able to connect with Bradley and understand why Bradley feels how he feels or think how he thinks, or why did he
Mm-hmm.
leave his last two companies? What was the driving force behind that? And how do I explain that to a potential employer, right? How do I
Exactly.
explain that passion that Bradley has that led him to say, hey, I put in my resignation with this company because I wanted something more. And this is exactly what I was looking for. And he can name that out. And then I can be able to take that and share that with the new company so they can see how Bradley thinks, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
that's different than just pulling a bunch of names and resumes and
Right.
sending them to someone, right? It's a
So,
totally different skill set.
so what advice would you give to, particularly young recruiters, that are kind of just getting into the business,
Yeah, you
what would
have
you, what,
you have to you have to you have to be very detailed in how you communicate your candidate's information and how do
Mhm.
you communicate with your candidate,
Mhm.
because the truth of the matter is recruiters are being devalued every day.
Mhm.
Like they're not, it's not the same. It's not, at one point being a recruiter was looked at totally different than it is now. And so you have people that has been recruiters for 10, 15, 20 years, they can't get a job as a recruiter, right? And so
Mhm.
in order to separate yourself, you have to really get in tune with the candidate and understanding what their needs are. But also when you have the client in, you have to
Mhm.
really understand and have a great relationship with that client to understand what they're really looking for. Because sometimes a client will come to us and say, we're looking for this, and then they're really not looking for that, right?
Right.
But
Right.
if we don't have great underlying communication and we don't drill down enough, we're going to be out searching for something they don't need or they don't want,
And
right?
they'll never get filled.
And we're always
Yeah.
frustrated now because we haven't connected the dots. And so
Right.
our job is to have a real human connection on both ends of this. I have to
Right.
make sure I highly understand what my client wants and what my client needs. And then I have to make sure that I understand the candidate. And then how do I take this opportunity and allocate it over to him in a way that he or she can say, this makes sense for me and my family, right?
Yeah.
That's how we look at it. And so with young recruiters, you have to, it's not, you can get caught up in all these tools and technology,
Mhm.
and we need technology. There's nothing wrong with that. But on
Mhm.
the other side of that is how we drill down on the human experience is going to separate us from everyone else.
I've always said, as long as there's humans doing the job with and for other humans, you're going to have to be human.
For sure.
I mean, and I think one of the things that helped me was that, growing up in the entertainment industry and different things, I've been represented by managers. I've had agents before. I've had good ones. I've had bad ones. But when I got into recruiting, I loved that film, Jerry Maguire. I absolutely loved it. In fact, I messaged Lee the other day. I was like, you have no idea how much you've influenced me. And so when I got into it, it was really interesting because nobody was doing it the way I was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that I did was I treated the candidate as a client as much as my client,
Yep.
And that sort of made all the difference. And I just see now, really there's beginning to be this great divide. And what's really interesting to me, and this better than anybody, is that a company, all of their marketing, all of their, beyond their product, what that's geared toward is recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing so great. Come work with us.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing this technology. Boy, it's all geared toward recruiting. But it seems like a lot of clients don't understand the nuances it takes just to get a person through the door to talk to them,
For sure.
So when somebody, when people that work for you really have that in the forefront to where they're consultative,
mm-hmm.
as opposed to, I'm just trying to get the sale. I'm just trying to, it just makes a world of difference. I'm curious, former NFL basketball player, world-class athlete, played on the world's biggest stages. I'm going to start a recruiting company. Hey, everybody, what can I say? It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. His story, I've been listening to this since we recorded it. And, just going through different edits. And I'm learning something each time. So I really hope you did too today. And hope you continue to get something out of it. He is an amazing guy, and he's got an open door here anytime he wants to come on. So thank you, Corey. We really appreciate you. Thank you, brother. Now, stay tuned for more. We have more amazing guests. We have more tips, more things to help you land a job, keep a job, manage the people. We have all that. So stay tuned for that. Please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us out. And I got to tell you, one more thing, okay? I love you. God bless you. Let his face shine upon you and give you great peace. Be excellent to yourself and each other. See you next week.
White Husky Films. Dream, create, record. We create ads and promos for your business. We can promote your video on television, Facebook, YouTube, Hulu, and more. We do a full Google SEO analysis for you with any plan. Call us today at 305-744-1444 or visit our website at whitehuskyfilms.com. White Husky Films. You'll be glad you did.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. Hey, if you like Work Your Career Wednesday and want to be notified every single time we have a new episode, like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Smash it. Get a hammer and get it. And
Yeah, that's fine.
Too much?
No, that's fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I love it. People want.
Do you hear Steven in the background? I was just making sure I'm going to be okay. But get that notification going. And hey, we will be letting you know, or I guess YouTube will be letting you know, when the next Work Your Career Wednesday is on. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Man, ding it, ring it, sling it, and bo bang it. All right? And we will see you soon. Work Your Career Wednesday. Oh, great. I'm glad you stopped by. Be sure to get that subscription bell, and I'll see you there.